Hey guys, this is Cody with T-sportline, and today I want to introduce our brand new DIY tint kit for the Cybertruck. Now, we were one of the first companies to come out with the DIY wrap kit and PPF kit, and that's been really successful. Customers have really enjoyed applying their own color change to their vehicle. The flat panels of this truck really make this accessible to most people to apply this at home and in their garage. And it's really the exact same thing with the windows. The windows are flat, there's not really any curvature to these, and that opens up the ability for people at home to apply tint without any special skills, special knowledge ahead of time. There's no heating of the film and contouring to curvature, so it's really a straightforward installation, much like the wrap, probably even simpler just because of how small these panels are. So I'm excited in this video to talk to you about how tint works, what the different percentages are of darkness, what comes in our kit, and most importantly, how to get the film on your windows at home. Okay, first let's talk about tint percentages. This might be something that you were wondering about if you haven't applied tint to your vehicle before. We offer 3 tint percentages, 35, 25, and 15. And that's a measure of the visible light transmission. In other words, how much light is going to get through the window after the tint has been applied. So maybe a little bit counterintuitively, the lower the number actually, the darker the tint. So for instance, a 25% tint percentage would allow 25% of the light through the window, whereas 15% would only allow 15% of the light through the window. So you can see how the lower the number actually, the darker the window. Now, the front windows on your Cybertruck would have been delivered without any tint on them. The rear actually comes with 25% from the factory. So if we add a 25% film to the front window and nothing to the rear, those two windows will now match. If we add 25 on the front and then put another 25 on the rear, it's actually going to darken this all the way down to 5%. So that's effectively going to be like a limo tint. So on the rear, we offer a 35 or a 25% film, which decreases the light transmission down to 15 or 5% respectively. Okay, coming back to the front, again, this window was untinted to begin with, so those films that we apply, the 35, 25, and 15, will give that much tint to this front window. So if we want to match the front window to the rear window, that's going to be a 25%. If we want to go to a little lighter, which allows us to see maybe a little bit better at night in the dark, a 35 might be better. Now, before you add any tint, please check your local and state laws and regulations. There are rules about how much tint you're allowed to apply, especially to the front windows. It does vary by window, but the front windows are especially of concern. So please check your local laws. This will be up to you to decide what tint is allowed in your area. So with that, let's jump into what comes in the kit. Okay, so we've put a full toolkit together that you can optionally buy with our tint kit. And this is going to come with everything that you need to install tint on your vehicle. Basically, all you have to supply is a little water for this bottle. So let's jump into what comes in the toolkit. Again, this is optional. When you go on our website, you can pick which pieces, which windows you want to cover with tint, and then you can actually purchase the toolkit as well. Okay, so first we obviously have the tint, and again, you'll select in the listing if you want front quarter window, the front door window, rear door window, and rear cab to bed window. Optionally select each one depending on what you want and what percentage of VLT you want. Next, we have this roll of plastic with the tape stuck to the end. So we'll use this in a minute to cover the interior of the doors and help protect all the inside trim and electronics from getting wet while we're working. Next, we have this spray bottle and this tint-specific slip solution. So we'll discuss in a second how to mix these together and make a solution that we'll use to apply and position the tint. We have a white scrub pad. We'll use this to clean the window. We also have a razor blade here. We can use that to trim anything that may be needed on the tint, not expected, but did want to include that in case any trimming is necessary. We have a straight razor blade that we'll use to clean the window with. We also have a microfiber towel for cleaning up any water, wiping things down when we're done. We have this triangular squeegee that we'll use for slipping the tint under the window seal. And this assorted squeegee pack, which generally we'll use this larger squeegee for most applications, but in that front quarter, it is helpful to have these smaller squeegees in case we need to work into a tight corner. Okay guys, the first thing we need to talk about is the environment where you're going to do this tint. you need to be inside in a garage in an enclosed space, because the first thing we need to avoid is any sort of dust or pollen, anything getting on the tint while we're applying it onto the vehicle. You'll see that under the tint after it's applied. So any type of dirt in the air, anything floating around, we need to avoid. So do not do this outside, especially don't do it in direct sunlight. We need to be inside enclosed in a clean area. Second, the temperature is important. We don't want to do this in too cold of a space. So if you're in a garage and it's winter, go ahead and turn on a heater a little bit before you get in there. Try to get as close to room temperature as you can. If you're a bit below, that's no big a deal. Same way, too hot is also going to activate the adhesive too much. It's going to dry in place too quickly. So if it's summer, it's hot outside, maybe try to do it first thing in the morning when it's a little cooler in the area. Next, it's really going to be helpful to have a table to lay your film out on before you apply it. This just is a spot to unroll, see what we've got, see what we're working with, and get ready to apply onto the vehicle. This is a 6-foot table. It's a nice size. You could go with something a little bit smaller, but make yourself a clean area to work from before you start putting the tint onto the vehicle. Okay. Next thing we need to talk about is mixing the slip solution. So if you got our toolkit, we included a spray bottle like this. This is a 16-ounce bottle, and you also got some slip solution concentrate. Now what we want to do is fill this bottle up with water, and then we're going to take this slip solution concentrate and we're going to squirt maybe 1.5 to 2 squirts into this bottle full of water, shake it all up. If you're providing your own tools, some Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo works well, also some Dawn dish soap can work well, but we do have this tint specific formula that we include in our kits. If you're not using our spray bottle, but you are using this, you go about 1 ounce per gallon of this concentrated solution. And we'll talk in a second about how to make sure you've got your concentration right. Okay guys, let's move over to the truck now. So with these frameless windows, you'll notice that when you open the door, the window retracts a little bit, and that's gonna cover the bottom part of the window that we're trying to add film to. So what we need to do is trick the vehicle into thinking that the door's shut, so it extends the window all the way up, and we've got full exposure to apply the film. So all we have to do is grab a screwdriver, and right here in the latch, we're just gonna stick the screwdriver in and pull back 2 times, and that's gonna extend the window all the way up because the truck thinks the door is closed. Now, I wanna warn you, be very, very careful. If I slam the door shut right now, I have very good likelihood that I'm gonna break this window. So anytime you're working with the window extended and the door tricked like this, make sure you're careful, keep the door open. If you take a break, tell anybody that might be in the area, don't shut this door because it really could break the window. Okay, the next thing we want to do is protect the interior of the door. With all this nice trim and all the electronics that are housed inside this door, we want to prevent all the slip solution that we're going to end up spraying onto the window from trickling down onto the door. So in the kit, we've included this plastic cover, and it's already got tape on the end. So basically I can peel this tape off, come around here. There's no real science to this, but effectively I'm just going to try to cover all of the door trim and below. So peel it on out, stick it down here at the end, grab some scissors, cut this off, and then the plastic's actually going to pull out here like this and give us a nice little barrier against the water that we're about to spray on. Okay guys, now time for the fun part. It's time to apply their first panel. And luckily with each one of our kits, we include this small test piece. This is not gonna end up staying on the vehicle. This is something we can just try out, get a feel for how it's gonna go once we actually have the real film on the window, and just get a sense of what we need to do and what the process looks like before we actually start applying the real film. So in your kit, find this piece, and it's gonna match up to this top corner piece of the driver's side window. And you'll see on every piece there's some clear backer film with the actual tint itself in front. So first thing to do is grab that slip solution we made, and we're just gonna wet down this area. You really can't have too much slip solution here, so spray it, and get it nice and wet. You wanna see a good number of small bubbles all up in that slip solution. If it comes out looking like water, maybe shake your bottle a little bit more or add a bit more of that concentrate. And then with the small film like this, we can't just hand hold this and peel it back. So I'm just gonna spray this film down on both sides. And as I go to peel it back, just Peel back a little bit, spray. We want to make sure that everything on the back side of this film is wet before it touches anything else. And again, we really can't apply too much slip solution here. We want to make sure it's nice and soaked down. So once it's all wet, let's go ahead and set it up on the vehicle. And if we've done everything right, we've got it wet enough and we've made our slip solution correctly, this should move around pretty easily. If you're feeling it stick or you really can't push it around, we may not have enough soap in the slip solution or you haven't sprayed enough water on the window or the film. We should be able to move it, you know, a few inches without much force. If it feels more like like an ice rink or something with just sliding all over the place, we might have put too much slip solution into the water there and the concentration. But basically you'll get a sense of how well this film can move around. And that's gonna be really nice when we go to apply the real film at the end, because it gives us plenty of time to get things lined up before we lock it down with the squeegee. So the idea here is that we want to line the film up in the corner of this window, and it's not going to go right up to the edge. We want to have about a millimeter gap between the edge of the window and where the film starts, and that just ensures that the film isn't actually touching that far edge of the window. So once I've got it lined up, I can grab my squeegee. I'm going to use the large one in this case. I'm just going to lightly lock it in place. Actually, keep the film nice and wet while you're doing this, and keep the squeegee wet as well. We don't want to drag across the film. So if I'm happy with how that lined up, move it just a little bit and squeegee the other side off. So again, I'm looking to ensure that my alignment's good, fairly even all the way around, got about a millimeter of gap. And that's really all there is to it. I can come back with a little firmer squeegee, set this down. That's really about all we need to do with this piece. So again, we're just getting a sense of how the film moves around once we apply it to the window, making sure our slip solution concentrate is good, and really just ensuring that this is a process, getting some comfort with the process. Okay, feel free to do that practice piece a few times. Peel it off, spray it back down, spray the window back down, reapply it, squeegee it out, make sure things are getting lined up. Do that, several times, 2, 3, 4 times until you're really comfortable with the process. The smaller piece is a little bit more difficult, in my opinion, than the larger piece. So if you get to the point where you've got that down, you've got the alignment, you've got the squeegeeing, then you're ready to move to the next step. So we'll peel that off, and the first thing we need to do in order to get ready for applying the actual tint is to clean this window, and it needs to be really, really clean. So we're gonna go through a multi-step process to get everything off this window that could affect the adhesion of the film once we apply it. So first things first, we're just gonna spray down with our slip solution, same thing we were using earlier, get it nice and wet. And then grab this white scuff pad from your kit, and we're just gonna scuff the whole window, make sure there was not anything stuck on there, any leftover adhesive from what we just applied, or anything from the factory, or just as we've been using the vehicle. Give it a nice good scrub the whole way around. And as we're doing this, the place you really want to be careful of is the edges. So I'm really going to focus on the edges of the window. All of that could be harboring some dust or dirt or stickiness that could get transferred onto the film, and then will be visible underneath the film after we apply it. And if any of that gets stuck on there, it's kind of set in place once the film is on. So spend some time, get this really good with this white scuff pad. Okay, once you're satisfied there, next, grab your razor blade that's included in the kit. Might give it another spray down, and this is gonna help me get off any last particles, any dust, any other little adhesive pieces that the scuff pad didn't get. And we're just gonna kinda almost use it like a squeegee. Squeegee the entire window. You want to make sure you're not feeling any sticking points as you do this. If you feel a sticking point, spray a little more solution in that area, and do it a few more times in that spot until the razor just glides completely smooth. Okay, and just be sure, as I said, the edge is the most important spot. I'll come back, just do my edges one more time. Feel free to have the razor blade sort of overlap the edge. Make sure you're getting everything that's up near that edge point. Okay, now, very last step, we're gonna come back with our squeegee. Make sure it's nice and clean. Just get any last particles, any last thing that's still left. Just get rid of all of that. I'm pressing pretty firmly, but keeping the squeegee flat. So it's getting the entire surface of the window. Okay, this backside's prepared now. Okay, moving over to the outside of the window now, we are actually gonna clean this entire window with basically the same process. Probably skip the razor, but I'm gonna use the scuff pad and the squeegee, and you'll see in a moment why we're doing this. But basically, we're gonna use this outside part of the window to hold the film for us as we peel the backer off. And we want to make sure that we don't induce any dirt or dust, any contaminants onto the film while we do that. So we're basically just making a clean work surface here that we can use in a moment to hold the film. Now you'll notice I didn't close the door while I'm doing this. As a reminder, the window is extended. We need to make sure that the door stays open during this entire process. Okay. Squeegee off everything that we just cleaned up, any dirt that we just kicked up, squeegee that out of the way. Okay, nice and clean now. All right, then I'm gonna come back, get it wet again. What we're about to do is lay the film up here. I need it wet so it sticks in place. Okay, so now I've got my driver's side front window film. And you may have a little difficulty telling which is the driver's side and which is the passenger side. What you'll see is that each film has a clear backing and the actual piece of tint like we saw in the practice piece. If I peel back a little bit, I can see that the tint is on this back side. This side is the clear film. And if we imagine, hold it up in here and kind of think about it like a sticker, I'm gonna peel off this clear backing and this is gonna stick onto the inside of the window. So if I hold this in the same orientation, I'm gonna come out here and set it down on the window. Again, just kind of using this to hold it in place. Next thing I'm gonna do is peel off this backing. And when I do that, let's remember that the adhesive part of the film is exposed to the air. So I wanna make this transfer fairly quickly. As soon as I get the clear off, I wanna go to the inside to start applying it and not have it exposed to any dust or anything that might be floating in the air. Let me spray this window again, make sure we're ready. And then as I start peeling this off, I'm gonna be spraying onto the inside, that adhesive side of the film. Make sure I keep this nice and wet. Getting every part of the surface wet. And here's kind of the only real tricky move. Peel this film up, pull it over, set it back down on the window, being sure not to touch anything that might be a little bit dirty. Okay, so now that we're on this side of the window, first thing we need to do is work the film down underneath the seal at the bottom of the window. And a handy tool for helping with that is this gray squeegee. We can kind of use it to pry back the window seal at the bottom. Make sure we've got a gap there to work the tint down to the bottom part of the window. Okay, I've got the film probably down as low as I need to go. I'm gonna start sort of lining up this edge over here and the top all at one time. So similar to the practice piece, just on a bigger scale now and with more spots to be aware of. Basically, I want to have a small gap all the way around, like I said, about 1 millimeter. One thing you can do to test is run your finger over the edge of the window. Just make sure you don't pick up anything on your finger. You don't want to be able to peel the film back as you're doing that, because that's something that you could catch on later. So this work to position, that window seal on the bottom might give you a little trouble. Kind of hold that back. Okay. If you get to this point and things are maybe sticking down, you haven't got it quite positioned where you want, you can peel, if maybe this edge was sticking for me, I could peel this back. I can spray a little more in there, and maybe that allows me to keep reworking on the film a bit. You don't want to do that more than necessary. The fewer times you can peel up the film, the better. But basically, work it until you've got it aligned as best you can. Next, pull out your squeegee. Let's go ahead and get that nice and wet. Same with your film. Just douse that again. Just want to keep everything nice and wet as we're working it. And I'm going to start with this back edge, and basically this is starting to lock the film into place. I'm not using a terrible amount of pressure right now, but I'm going to go with back edge, and sort of my top edge, and then this front edge. And that's, at this point you'll notice the film's not really going to move anymore. It's pretty well adhered down. And now I can just start to work out the water and soap that's between the film and the window. And be sure to keep your squeegee nice and wet, film nice and wet. This should glide real easily. You don't want to risk scratching the film. And start by just doing this fairly gently, just enough to get the water, the bulk of the water and the soap out between the film. If you have any bubbles that pop up, kind of work on them a little bit. We're just pushing all the water and all the bubbles out. Okay, after we're done squeegeeing really well, especially working on this bottom part here at the end, I'm going to use this yellow squeegee to really force the film into place. Once I'm good there, don't see any bubbles, I can switch over to this gray tucking card. I think I might have called it a squeegee earlier, I misspoke. This is a tucking card. So this is a little bit firmer plastic, a little bit harder. You don't really want to use it as a normal squeegee, as it can scratch the film, but we are going to use it because it's so thin. We can get underneath the window seal and really force down that whole bottom edge of the film that's underneath the seal. And so that way when the window's coming up and down, the seal can't catch the edge of the film that we just applied. So do a couple times, quite a bit of pressure, kind of got the card held at an angle here, down underneath the seal. And just making sure I'm working all the way to the bottom of that film. Once all the visible bubbles are gone, come back one more time, spray everything down. We're gonna go just a little firmer this time and really set that adhesive down onto the glass. This time again, I'm using just a little more pressure. Just really wanna make sure all that air, all that water, all that soap squeegeed out from behind the film, in between the film and the glass. Using overlapping strokes. Make sure I don't miss any part of this film. Okay, now grab your microfiber towel. I'm just gonna wipe down everything we just worked on. Get all that water off the outside. Get off both sides of the window. So what we wanna do is inspect our work. Give it a nice good look. See if anything got trapped in between the film and the window. See if there's any remaining last bubbles. I see actually a little bubble popping up here. I call this a finger when it's nice and long and thin like that. So let me just work that out. Make sure I got everything out how I want it. It's kind of our last chance. Okay, looking good. Now, as a reminder again, this window is locked in the up position, so don't go slamming it now. We do want to leave this for actually about 48 hours to set up. Okay, this front window is looking pretty good. Happy with that, how that turned out. Ready to roll on to the front window. I'm going to leave this door open because we're going to be working on this front quarter window next. After we've applied all that, you may be getting a little low on slip solution. Now's a good time to refill. Same concentration as before, water and the slip solution concentrate. I'm also going to go ahead and grab this rag. This is going to probably be a little easier on this front window to catch any loose water, more so than the plastic that we're using on the door. So I'm just going to set this down, not right up against the window, but back a little bit. This window is going to be very, very similar to the front. The only difference probably is I'm not going to apply the film to the outside first to peel it. This inside window is a small enough piece that I can probably just do this one by hand. So let me start by spraying down on the inside here. And really, I'm probably going to be working mostly watching from the outside, obviously working from the inside, but I can see better looking at it from the outside. So again, taking my scuff pad, I might fold this over. Again, really the cleaning step is just about the most important step of the whole process. I want to make sure we get all through there. You may even find it's easier to cut this scuff pad, get a little small piece that you can work up under that A-pillar trim with. All right, once that window's all clean, I'm probably going to skip the razor part on this front window. It's a little harder for anything to have gotten up there, gotten it too dirty to begin with. And this rag is just to catch any sort of overspray. So now it's time to get ready to apply the film. Again, same process as before. Get it all nice and wet up here. Try not to get it over too much else other than the window itself, but I do want the entire window area to be wet. Next, grab my film. Same process as this front window, where I can tell which piece is which. So when I see which side of the film peels off, that peeling back piece is going to have the adhesive on the back. So I want to make sure that will line up once I go to the inside to fit it up. Okay, with your film in hand, again, same process as before. Let's get the whole thing wet on the outside. And rather than putting this on the glass, I'm going to do it by hand. But it's small enough, it's not so difficult. Just want to make sure that as soon as the adhesive gets exposed, it gets sprayed down. Yeah, I'll probably go ahead and peel the whole thing off here. Make sure it doesn't touch my shirt, touch the vehicle, touch the ground. Nice and wet, both sides. Then I'm going to go over to the vehicle and apply it on the window. Okay, I'm going to move this microfiber out of the way just a little bit. Don't want to risk touching that. And very carefully, sort of using both hands, bring the film in. It's okay to touch on the window. I want to make sure that I don't touch any other part of the vehicle while doing this. Right now I'm just using my fingers to get it positioned in place. luckily, sort of a dark edge trim to this window, so we don't have to be so worried about getting things lined up perfectly. We've got kind of some overhang working to our advantage, so we don't have to worry about that 1mm gap. We're actually going to have the entire piece of film edge covered by this black trim on the window. So the clear part of the window that we can see should be completely covered with the new tint film. Okay, once it's in place, I'm going to grab one of the smaller squeegees from the kit, spray that down, get nice and wet. Probably move this microfiber back in a little bit, and again spray the back side of this film. Don't want to risk scratching anything with the squeegee. And use whichever squeegee feels comfortable to you. I'm going to start at the top. Again, just kind of some light strokes to initially get the bulk of the water out. Start setting the film down. And just work the majority of that water out. Look for those bubbles, work those out. Just light strokes to begin with. All right, with most of it gone, spray my squeegee again. Spray the film again. And this time, assuming everything's still looking good, go a little bit harder. Starting to put some pressure on the squeegee, really trying to get rid of any water or bubbles that are still in there. Using overlapping strokes, make sure every piece of the film gets a good squeegee out. Really focus on the corners as well. Make sure there's no remaining bubbles or water up near those corners. You may be able to grab this other squeegee with a little sharper corner to it. We're working up in these tighter areas. The top corner, bottom corner, and the front. Okay, give it another wipe down, outside and on the inside. Oh, had a little bubble pop up there. So let me wet my squeegee again, wet the film, the whole area of the film. Push that down a little harder. That was kind of a harder spot to get to, so let me really reach inside. Give that some pressure. Squeegee that out. And I think that kind of pulled up from the front. I'm really going to try to use some pressure. Get all that out. Really set it down up front. Okay. Wipe down, so dry down the area. Make sure I don't have any water left over on this dash pad. Then I can come out, give it a nice inspection. Make sure I don't have any bubbles, any dust or anything trapped in there. And this one's looking pretty good. Okay, with the front windows done, if you purchase the tint for your rear door, we can move on to that next. All we'll do here is repeat the same steps that we did on the front door and apply them to the back. Okay guys, with the doors and the front quarter panel window done, if you chose to get this rear window out of the cabin into the bed, that's our next step. And I'm not gonna lie, this one is a bit more difficult than the others we've done, mostly just because of the limited access to the window itself. It's gonna be a bit like that front quarter window. where we have trim all the way around so we don't have to worry so much about the edges. However, getting the film into this location is a little tricky. We want to make sure that the film avoids this trim up here, which could be trapping some dust or some lint, and also want to avoid these headrests. So the access is a little bit difficult, but otherwise the process is exactly the same. I would recommend, if you've got somebody around, maybe grab a friend to help with this one, help manage the film as you get it into the window. But otherwise we'll follow the exact same steps as what we did earlier. Okay, let's start with using the plastic sheet to cover the rear seats. Next, just like before, let's spray down the rear window, and we're going to use the same process of cleaning as we did on the doors. Okay, let's start with using the white scrub pad, and just like before, we're going to get the entire window and focusing especially around the edges. Next, grab your flat razor blade, and we're going to scrape off the entire area of the window. Finally, spray down the window one more time, and grab your squeegee to squeegee off the entire window. Okay, for this next step, it's really helpful to have a second set of hands. If you have a buddy around, grab them, because when we try to feed the film back to the window, again, we need to avoid the top trim and the backs of the seats. There's not a lot of area here, so that second set of hands can be really helpful. Now we're in the home stretch. Squeegee out just like we did before. Start with lighter pressure, make sure your alignment's good, and then come back with your firm pressure squeegee. Finally doing a quick inspection, and you're good to go. Okay guys, it's been 48 hours and this truck is now ready to go. The adhesive has set. We can roll the windows up and down now, and things are looking really good. This is our 35% film. You can see quite a bit darker than stock, but not nearly as dark as the rear window, and I think it turned out looking really great. We didn't run into any issues. If you run into an issue during your install, hit up our customer service team, customerservice@tsportline.com. Otherwise, like and subscribe to this video and follow along. Catch us in the next one.